Hey everyone, you're listening to Party Time, My Golf Story with Kevin Walsh and whatever special guest he has today. You can check me out on episode 9 of the podcast. Today I'm wearing Grayson clothes while I'm out practicing because I believe in look good, play good. And follow me on Instagram, Sophia Warren Golf, and hope you enjoy the rest of the show.
It's Party Time, My Golf Story, brought to you by Party Drinks. Classically designed golf drinks for golfers by golfers. And the golf real estate pros Gene Walsh and Vince Visicaro. For your Southwest Florida real estate needs, check them out at suncoastdreams.com. Now here's your host, Kevin Walsh.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the program. This is another early morning recording because when it comes to all things golf, sometimes, the day starts early, doesn't it? It's 5 o'clock in the morning on a Monday morning, March 23rd at the time of this recording. Gavin Newsham is our guest here. He is the author of a new book, The Birth of, it's called Author of Project Tiger, The Birth of Genius and the Price of Greatness. If it's a book about Tiger, I'm all in, because if there's a more fascinating person in the world than Tiger, I don't know who that is. There have been many books written about Tiger, and I'm still trying to get to the core of who he is, aside from a great golfer. Endlessly fascinating. He's not the only professional golfer who is fascinating, but he is by far the most fascinating of the bunch. Gavin Newsham is joining us from England. So the time change, that has something to do with the early morning rise. Always enjoying talking about golf and endlessly fascinated by Tiger. Before we go any further, if you have not subscribed to the show, would you do so, please? That helps with the algorithms. It's all about the algorithms, if you don't know that. Most people that watch podcasts and listen to podcasts, they just think, it's just magically there. Somebody just turns on a microphone and starts talking. There's a lot more to it than that, and that's where we need your help. And also, please support our sponsors. Party Golf Drinks. If you're looking for a drink alternative on the golf course, try a Party. I got a whole bookcase of them behind me. Much better than those tired, old, crappy seltzers that you're pretending taste good, but really all you're doing is chasing a buzz on the golf course. May as well have something better. If golf real estate isn't your plans in the future, nobody better than the golf real estate pros at suncoastdreams.com, a division of fine properties in the greater Sarasota area. It is a buyer's market, and the market is hot right now, especially at Lakewood National Golf Club, where this podcast originates from in greater Sarasota. And if all that golf has got you tired out, you check out Violet Spa in downtown Sarasota. Our girl Karen, my neighbor, has got you taken care of. All right, so let's bring Gavin Newsham on board here right now. Gavin, what's going on? I see the sun peeking through the windows at your house. Where in the UK are you joining us from, buddy?
Hi there, Kevin. I'm joining you from Brighton, which is about an hour south of London on the coast. And I think today is one of those rare days in the UK where we actually have sunshine. I think we get them once every 4 or 5 years. So, you've lucked out really there, I think. Yeah.
Well, we have 300 days of sunshine here in Florida. When I moved here a couple of years ago, I just thought that was a marketing campaign. I thought it was BS and everything until I'm here. And a cloudy day is an absolute tragedy. So, but we're not going to see the sun for another couple hours because it's so early in the morning here.
Exactly. Yeah.
So your name,
it's
a little mistaken identity. What's going on? Who are you being compared to, and what's been the impact on your life?
Well, often, increasingly, compared to Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, which I suspect is only going to get worse if he does run for president at some stage and gets the Democratic nomination. But I get blamed for a lot online. I get blamed for all sorts, from spending too much on homelessness, for banning gas cars. Every policy that he puts forward, I invariably get some kind of social media response blaming me, erroneously, as it were, I should add. So I get mixed up quite a lot, and it's a little tiresome, to be honest.
Well, let's see if we can find something else they can blame on you in talking about Tiger. So first of all, congratulations on your book, Project Tiger, The Birth of Genius and the Price of Greatness. Tell me this. Let's just go right to the heart of the matter. What's been the response from Tiger and his people?
Nothing yet, because it only came out last Tuesday, Wednesday. So nothing as yet. I dare say we're gonna hear something sooner or later. We invariably do through various channels. So yeah, fingers crossed he likes it. I'm guessing he won't, but he's quite a guarded guy these days. So I suspect you won't hear much from the man himself, but you might through various people in his inner circle, as it were. I think, yeah.
Why do you think he is that way? I mean, I'm sure we're going to get into it. Some of the things that maybe he's not exactly proud of. He doesn't want to get out being public and everything. But don't you think if he were a little more approachable by the media? And I wonder about your past dealings with him. What's he been like? I mean, did you reach out for the book, or did you know he'd say no anyway, and you just kind of moved on and did what you had to do?
Yeah, the latter, I think, because there've been so many books about him over the years, so it was, I think I write in the book that, we could have reached out to him. We could have asked to see if he'd be interested, but A, he'd say no. And B, if he did say yes, in the unlikely event, it would cost a hell of a lot of money that my publisher didn't have to pay him, I don't think. So, yeah, I think I said in the book that, trying to get hold of Tiger these days is much like doing a Rubik's Cube with a blindfold. It is possible, but it's ultimately very time consuming and probably futile, I think. So, yeah, I ploughed straight ahead, irrespective of Tiger's involvement, as it were.
Well, you mentioned other books, and I've read several books about Tiger. I've loved them all. There was common ground in a lot of them between each other, but it seemed like each one broke some new ground. I particularly think about two books. The one written by Hughes Norton, Tiger's former agent, who I know you talk about in your book about being unceremoniously, and I would say unprofessionally, dumped by Tiger. There's a way to break up properly in personal relationships, professional relationships. And I also think of Armen Keteyian and Jeff Benedict's book, in which they said up front they're rehashing old stories, old narratives that you've talked about, and they were just going to dive deeper and peel back more layers of the onion. What was your entry point into the book, and where did it go from there?
So it was actually Hughes Norton. I interviewed him for the New York Post feature when his book came out, and I've been toying around with this idea for a couple of years. I think in the lead up to Tiger's 50th birthday, which I thought was a good opportunity, a good hook, but also the fact that it's 30 years this summer since he turned pro as well. And I thought, well, let's go back to that point and further back. And I thought that in terms of books, as you said, there's a gazillion books about Tiger Woods. You take your pick, but there's never been one that concentrated purely on his childhood, his college career, and his amateur career. All of which are fascinating times in his life, and also reveal the kind of player and person he was becoming, I think, which we could see later in his life after he turned pro and became the global phenomenon that we know today.
When I look at Tiger, I see a person that doesn't have joy in his life. And I kind of get it, but I really don't get it, because it would seem that he has everything. He has success. He has fame. He has money. But he just has this look on his face. And there have been problems with his life, problems with addiction, which he later owned, being arrested, the accident. We could go on and on. And it reminds me in a similar way, but a different way, former New England Patriots head coach Bill Belichick. Same thing. It's like, where's the joy in his life? Tell me, is there some joy that I'm just not seeing?
I think there is. I think it's a really good point, Kevin, because I think I mentioned in the epilogue in the book that ever since everything that happened in 2009 onwards, and the various things, the DUI, the car crash, there's a certain sadness about the guy. And I find that really, really heartbreaking in a way, given, like you say, he had everything. And he's, in my view anyway, the greatest player that's ever lived. I think the joy in his life now, though, comes from is probably with his relationship with his kids, with Sam and Charlie, because they're that survived everything that happened in his marriage and his first, to Erin is Ellen is incredible. I mean, he seems to have learned a lot from his own relationship with his dad about what not to do maybe with Charlie, because he's obviously a very talented golfer himself, and just letting him go about things with a bit more freedom than his parents ever did with him. So I think that the joy there is seeing his kids grow and develop with a kind of freedom, if that's possible, having one of the most famous people in the world as your dad, but to do that on their own terms. So I think there's happiness to be found there.
So let's talk about Earl, because I sometimes think that there are some misconceptions about that they were very, very close. They may have been, but in some ways it seemed like there was a lot of tension and friction to that. Am I right about that? And maybe you can just shed some perspective on what their relationship was from the beginning and then how it evolved as Tiger grew into a man.
Yeah, I think so. So I think by the time Tiger gets to high school at Western High, his dad's pretty much mapped out where Tiger's going, and Tiger's all in. He's in for the ride and everything. But as he gets older and Tiger's celebrity, for want of a better word, grows, because even when he gets to Stanford, he's a celebrity at Stanford amongst all these incredibly gifted people. He's the guy. He's the guy on campus giving out autographs on his way to classes, But I think the thing with Tiger and Earl is that it was Earl's hyperbole. Yes, he was the ultimate Svengali, if you like, but all these grand and pronouncements that he made about what Tiger would do, not just in the world of pro golf, but beyond, comparing him to Gandhi and things like this. I think that was a source of acute embarrassment for Tiger. I really do. And also, in a way, I think that what gets back to what we said earlier about the media, maybe put his guard up against the media, because he has to answer questions about his dad and what he said all the time. So I think there's a link there. There's definitely a link there. And I think that, Earl's verbosity is something that Tiger really, really cringed about, I think, yeah.
Well, you mentioned hyperbole in the media, and Earl would put out there things that sounded ridiculous. You mentioned the Gandhi thing. There were many other things. Earl told a lot of stories about racism toward Tiger. I know you touch on that subject. So I ask you this question with a bit of a caveat, because in Jeff Benedict and Armin Katayan's book, they question that maybe there wasn't as much truth to profound racism. Tiger's claims that he couldn't play golf at certain places. And what they said was they never named names. They never named places. And for some, it's hard to imagine that there's a place that Tiger couldn't go, because it seems like Tiger should be able to go everywhere that he wants in the world, because everybody knows him. And I think most people love him. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think he undoubtedly suffered racism. I mean, let's not beat around the bush here. He did. I mean, even at his home club, his dad's home club, the Navy Club, near their home in Cyprus, Tiger wasn't allowed to play there because they said he was too young. And even though there were white kids playing there, they were younger than him. So when he wanted to bring his US Junior Amateur trophy in to show the members, they wouldn't let him. They weren't interested. And so I interviewed Joe Groman, who was the assistant pro there, who kind of took Tiger and Earl under his wing, because he could see what was happening. And he used to give Tiger, free balls, a free round, maybe, throw him some keys to a golf cart every now and then, without paying. But even then, the management found out and insisted that Tiger had receipts for everything that he paid for all the time, even though they had the greatest young golfer of his generation at their club, which would have been the greatest thing for any golf club, I think. Didn't matter. And it was that eventually it was the thing that broke the straw that broke the camel's back, because that's why Tiger just left in the end when he was about 16, just before he won his second US Junior. Yeah.
Kevin Newsham is our guest here. He is the author of Project Tiger, The Birth of Genius and the Price of Greatness, joining us from the United Kingdom in a little bit south of London. Tell me this, how is Tiger spending his days right now? That's a bit of a mystery as well. We wonder, at the time of this recording, we're a couple of weeks short of the Masters. What's going on there? What's going on with the Senior PGA Tour, now called the Champions Tour, and what's a typical day in his life? I don't know, but I want to know.
Yeah, well, so do I. I mean, because this is the thing, because, he's been asked about captaining the Ryder Cup team next time round in Ireland, and just saying, "Oh, I'm too busy," at the moment to make a commitment to that kind of thing. I think, well, why? What are you doing? You're not playing golf. It's what do you do? What do you do all day? Champions Tour, I don't think he'll play the Champions Tour. I mean, I just can't see that. Even though he can use a cart there, and it's probably the best thing for him in terms of all the injuries that he's suffered on his leg, especially after the car crash. So can't see him doing that. He's got his TGL golf thing, I suppose. He's involved with that, with the sort of thing that he's done with Rory, which again looks fun, but again, he never looks happy even in that, does he? He never looks like he's having a whale of a time. He's a complex individual, and I think what is interesting is that everybody in the golf world is just desperate to have him back in some shape or form, because he's still, whatever you think of all the players at the moment, Scheffler, amazing, Rory, amazing story as well, but there's never been anybody like Tiger, not in my lifetime anyway. Maybe tail end of Jack when I was younger, but yeah, he's still the biggest draw in golf, I think, and that's the fact that people are so desperate to see him come back is just testament to that, I think.
So you talked. We know Earl was an overbearing parent and had this plan for Tiger, and you wonder whose life Tiger was living. Was he living his own, or was he living Earl's? And then there's Charlie, whose rise is. It really seems like he's reaching a peak. He's committed to Florida State, and so you kind of hinted at it that it's different for Charlie's upbringing than it was for Tiger's, which I think is a good thing. But how involved is Tiger in Charlie and his golf? Is he his coach, or does he farm that out to somebody else?
I don't know. I think he's ad hoc, impromptu coach. I mean, who better to go to if you need a bit of advice on the grip or a particular shot you're trying to play? Because Tiger had every shot in the bag, didn't he? He really did. So, yeah, I mean, Charlie will go off to college and he'll be fine. He'll probably win events, but big shoes to fill, really big shoes to fill. And that can't be easy. It really can't be easy for Charlie. I mean, how he draws a line between doing something that he clearly loves, enjoys, and is talented at, but then living under that expectation and living under that, that burden of expectation can't be easy. So it'll be interesting to see how he develops over the next few years and whether he finally decides to turn pro himself. I don't know. Yeah.
And no question, I think of the Nicklaus children when I think of Charlie, and when Jack was number one, and I think of Gary, who I played college golf against. I played at Purdue. He was at Ohio State. And in addition to being the son of who was the greatest player at that time, some say still is, I'm not sure. That's an argument for another time. But Gary had the likeness of his dad. He looked so much like his dad, and you could almost see the pressure on his face. Funny stuff. I always find sneaking on golf courses endlessly fascinating and entertaining. Cypress Point? What happened here?
Yeah, they were on a high school trip. They'd played in a tournament not a million miles away from Cypress Point. And their coach, Don Crosby, who's no longer with us, he took all the team in his big motorhome to the event. And on the way past, they were sort of tantalizingly close to Cypress Point, should we say. So Tiger suggested they all stop off and they could play 15, 16 and sneak on 15, play 15, 16, 17, at which point Don Crosby was arranged to meet them at the end of the 17th, and they could jump back in the van and head back home. But by the time they got to the 17th, they were met by a welcoming committee from Cypress Point and quickly escorted off the premises. Which, so out there somewhere is somebody that's chucked Tiger Woods off the golf course. Which is, I'd love to find that person. I mean, I did try, but God knows, it'd be an amazing story to tell you, because when I threw Tiger off, off my golf course.
Reminds me of my story when I got kicked off Marion West. I hit my tee shot, and that was it. And that was the West course, not the East course, the championship course.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. It was a Monday. We thought we were being clever. It wasn't just me. It was a past guest on the show, Hugh Riley Jr. And, but, hey, until you stick out a golf course, you haven't lived. Tell me this. Gavin Newsom is our guest here. He is the author of a new book, Project Tiger, The Birth of Genius and the Price of Greatness, here on Party Time. My Golf Story, brought to you by Party Golf Drinks. If you're looking for an alternative on the golf course, try Party. The Golf Real Estate Pros, Gene Walsh, Vince Fizzicaro, and Samantha Walsh, SuncoastDreams.com. Good time to buy in the greater Sarasota area, especially at Lakewood National Golf Club and Calusa Country Club, and BioLit Spa in downtown Sarasota. What's your entry in the golf, Gavin? I want to know.
Okay, kind of a long story, really, because I was born in the south of England, but my dad was a military man, so he moved around quite a lot as a kid, and eventually we ended up in Edinburgh, in Scotland, for a few years when I was about 8, 9, 10. So there was a big field behind my house, and a friend of mine found an old 4-iron which had like a hose pipe on the grip, and so we went out endlessly with a few balls, just thrashing golf balls around on this field, endangering neighbours' houses and things. And from that point, I've never looked, I was going to say back, but I've never looked forward, really, given my golf game. But so that was it. And from then on, love-hate relationship with the game. And today, not playing as much as I'd like to, but still interested, still keen,
Yeah, we're all chasing it in some capacity. Speaking of chasing it, where can I chase down your book? How do we get your book?
Yeah, so it's on Amazon. It's that's the best place. That's probably the default place to go, I'd say. But it's also in all good bookshops, and doubtless a few bad ones as well if you frequent them. So usual places. Amazon's the main one, I think.
Gavin Newsom has been our guest here. He is the author of Project Tiger, The Birth of Genius and the Price of Greatness. I suggest you read it. It's the perfect time to read a book, because right around when we get close to Masters, that's the time that people in the colder climates of Europe, but especially in the United States and in the Northeast where I grew up, that's when we really start thinking about golf. We think that's the time. Gavin, I wish you all the best. I hope you can avoid all the people that are Gavin Newsom bashers and everything. And well, maybe we've given somebody else some more material, and that'll be a proper distraction. All right.
Oh yeah, I might be deluged with people now, though, Kevin. That's the problem,
Well, all publicity is good publicity, I mean, sometimes you got to stir it up a little. Hey, listen, don't be a stranger. Come on back. We'd love to have you. And thanks for the time and getting up nice and early for me. And I wish you a great day ahead. All right.
Thanks, Kevin. Really appreciate it.
Gavin Newsom, our guest here, author of Project Tiger, The Birth of Genius. Big thanks to Party Golf Drinks. If you're looking for an alternative on the golf course, try a Party. Also, BioLit Spa in downtown Sarasota, and the Golf Real Estate Pros, Gene Walsh, Vince Fizzicaro, and Samantha Walsh, SuncoastDreams.com, division of fine properties. For Gavin Newsom, I'm Kevin Walsh. We'll see you again next time on Party Time, My Golf Story.
You've been listening to It's Party Time, My Golf Story, brought to you by Party Drinks. Classically designed golf drinks for golfers by golfers, and the Golf Real Estate Pros, Gene Walsh and Vince Fizzicaro. For your Southwest Florida real estate needs, check them out at SuncoastDreams.com or call 941-220-4000.